Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast for a different type of episode. Obviously we're the Manchester United, not fan channel, but we're a Man United sort of based fan channel, but a little bit of Premier League football because United are, as Larry always says, we do have an opposition every week to play. It's not just about Man United, so something a little bit different, but probably the best time to take advantage of it because United are top of the league, so we can laugh at everyone else and look down upon everyone else. And Arsenal are bottom of the league, so we can have a little bit of banter regarding Arsenal fans. George is already waiting in the comments. Just seen there, evening George. He's obviously one of our Sydney listeners, so obviously stuck in lockdown like the rest of us. So if you are tuned in, please leave a like on the video. I'm not keeping you up, Larry, there, am I? Long day at work, has it?
Hey, yeah, man, long day indeed, but always happy to see you, Tom. You know that.
No, definitely. Well, life does feel better. Life is down, obviously, at the moment if you're living in Sydney, Australia. But at the moment, we're top of the league, and after that Leeds performance, we're going to get into sort of around the grounds. But it is a good feeling. Like Mondays are usually a bit of a drag, but it does have a different type of spring in your step when you are top of the league, which is a feeling we haven't had over the last decade or so.
Yeah, can't disagree there. I've been in a good mood since Saturday. Built-in game for United. So, yeah, fingers crossed. Let's keep it up. Hey, we got Southampton coming up on Thursday. But like you said, Tom, I could talk about United all day. We'll try and go. It's the Premier League pub crawl. So let's take a drink around all the clubs and, yeah, let's see how everyone else is doing.
Well, I think Larry has been drinking since last Thursday, considering he thinks United are playing Southampton this Thursday. So I'm easy on the drink, please, Larry. Sorry. But Pram, let's go, lads. Evening, Rob and Sam as well. Evening to you, lads. So we'll get into it. And look, it's a hard one because we will get into Man United. We will talk about Bruno Fernandes, but we will start on Arsenal because we did touch on Arsenal in the sort of last episode, just have a little bit of a laugh at an Arteta win, etc. But we will look at the game because it was the first game back in the Premier League, and it just felt different. Was it because fans were there? Because it was a newly promoted side? Would it have had the same atmosphere if it was Everton v Arsenal sort of thing? What did you make of the return? Because I was so excited. It was a Saturday morning here, 5 a.m. kickoff. Why on earth would I set the alarm for 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning when United aren't playing? But there I was, 5 a.m., set the alarm for Arsenal v Brentford, and it more than well sort of lived up to the expectation for me.
I thought it was a belting game. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, if I'm being honest. And looking at the game, I've seen, I will be sensible for this. There's been a lot of criticism of Ben White, whether he was at fault for either of the goals. Look, I think with new signings all the time, now, even if it's Premier League, there is a pressure that comes, like banter aside, Arsenal are a big club. I think there's a pressure compared to, say, playing at a Brighton. So I think, look, Arsenal have good enough players that they dominated possession. I'm looking at the stats here, and it felt like it watching the game. 4 shots on target, Brentford with 3. So it was clearly, the stats tell you, Brentford set up to absorb pressure and counterattack. They did that well. But in saying that, Arsenal had 22 shots. So, look, it's a good enough side. They obviously will improve, but bloody hell, I'll enjoy this one. And you know what? A lot of predictions, or analysts or experts, if you want to say, have had Brentford getting relegated. I'm not so sure. The style of football that they played in the Championship, it's very dynamic. They're a club that have evolved. They've gone up season on season. I like what they're doing, Brentford. I wouldn't be putting money on them going down. I actually think they might have enough to stay up this season.
You talk about Arsenal and sort of that they will improve, and obviously they're going to win games, they're going to lose games, etc. That will happen. But in terms of especially that second goal, I look at the first goal, that sort of happens, that can happen on anyone. That second goal, you talk about improvement, and clubs in general, whether it be Man United, Arsenal or Brentford, will always look to progress over the years, okay, learn from their mistakes. That's an Arsenal goal they've conceded for the past 10 years. Change that Brentford kit and make it a red and white Stoke jersey. That long throw, as soon as that ball was in the air, you thought, hang on, this is Arsenal defending here. This could be a goal. And the way they defended it, like people could argue that the goalkeeper was fouled. And technically, it probably is a foul, but it's still weak goalkeeping. If he wanted to go and get the ball, he could have sort of broken that sort of lock he had, and he could have come out and collected the ball. Ben White just, look, defending 101, don't let the ball bounce, especially don't let the ball bounce in your area. And he just sort of let it bounce. You just stood there still, just no sort of intent to go and attack the ball. So you talk about Arsenal, they will improve, but the evidence we have from Arsenal says they won't improve because it's the same mistakes year on year on year, regardless of the players, regardless of the manager. Look, I'm glad it's happening, but I don't see how they're going to put it right.
Well, I mean, time will tell. I'm just looking at their team now. That the team that played on the weekend, they're a Ferrari with no engine. Arsenal, they look all right up front. I got to be honest, I've never heard of the striker. When I saw him on the pitch, I was like, "Who's this bloke?" Balogun. Never heard of him.
Or the Arsenal youngster. Well, he's highly sought after, but I remember they had a highly sought after Nketiah a couple of years ago. Now they're looking to bin him
Yeah,
out. So, look, he does obviously, but a lot of players look good in youth football. United does have full of them. We sort of have these, look at James Wilson sort of thing. He was the next Alan Shearer. So, Balogun, look, he signed a new contract at Arsenal, so he obviously has something about him. But yeah,
yeah, very
he's not going to lead
inexperienced
the
side
line.
that played for Arsenal. Just looking at that side that played, a lot of kids in there. Look, I think they will come good. Come good to finish 10th. If I'm being honest, like seriously, banter aside, it's not a good team, is it? Like that, they'll do well to finish 8th and below.
Speaking of
They're not
8th
going to
and
challenge.
10th, George Mellis thinks Brentford will come in the top 15, which that has
I'm
to
with
fall.
George on that.
I think they'll be happy with 17th. I think I'm not convinced by them. And again, I've only seen one or two games. Obviously, the United pre-season and this game, I think they will be hard to beat, but I think they might over the course of a season struggle a little bit. Rob disagrees with you with the Ferrari. He thinks that is a little bit kind.
Ferrari with
And
no engine. All right, how about we'll call them a Ford Focus with no engine then?
Param reminds me of Sheffield, very innovative team. And George Alfieres, Arsenal relied on Aubameyang to carry them, and now that his goals have dried up, their true colours are showing, and it's great to see. And I think that's almost like, okay, we take away the banter of Arsenal. Okay, they're in a relegation battle, etc. Clubs down that end of the table will rely on a goal scorer, and the team without those goal scorers will get relegated. You look at those teams who come up, always the discussion is, will they have that player who can get 10, 15 goals for them? And do you think suddenly we're having that discussion about Arsenal, who's going to get those 10, 15 goals for them? Obviously, they're not going to be in a relegation battle, but it is a tricky situation. Before we move on, just on Arteta, we had a little bit of sort of just a joking discussion about him last night. But put your money on it. Is he a potential to be the first sacked? Like, there are obviously other managers in different situations, sort of lower down the league. Well, no one's lower than Arsenal at the moment, but you know what I mean, those lesser teams. But in terms of the job Arteta has at hand and the way last season finished for him, he's got to be very close to maybe being first to get sacked, especially if they do lose their first 3 games, which the better men would have them now because their next 2 games are Chelsea and City.
I don't know with Arteta. It's a difficult one because if I'm being honest, like look at that squad. It's not good. It's not a good squad, and that's the thing. I don't think he's doing a great job with what he has. But if I'm looking at that team on paper, like if you remove the context of a manager, if you just saw that team on paper along with the other sides in the Premier League, and you remove the badges and you don't know what club is what, you'd look at that team and you'd think they're not finishing higher than 10th. So if I'm being honest, and this truthfully, it's not banter. So if there's any Arsenal fans, I'm sorry, but he'd do well to finish higher than in the top 10 spots, mate. It's not a good team. So it just depends. I think, obviously, if he has more losses than victories and we get to Christmas, I think he'll have a difficult time. But other than that, if he's breaking even, I think he'll keep his job.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I do hope it lasts, especially the next 2 weeks, because I want a situation where we go into that international break where Arsenal are bottom and 0 points from 9 points. That would be that'd be fascinating viewing going into international break. But as I say, this is a Premier League sort of wrap up. We'll go through not all the fixtures. If you've tuned in for some analysis on Brighton versus Burnley, I suggest you find another video. We're not going to go into those type of games, but if you are enjoying the video, please leave a like on the video. But we will get into a little bit of Man United news just for the sake of, well, they are the best team in the Premier League at the moment. Facts don't lie. We are sitting top of the table. But the man, Bruno Fernandes, won't go into the game. We discussed that yesterday. We'll just talk a bit about Bruno Fernandes now because I've got a few discussions I want to have. One, is he going to be the best player in the Premier League this season, or is he going to win the Golden Boot? Which one?
There's an argument to say both. I don't think he'll win the Golden Boot, as brilliant as his hat-trick was. Because I think United's system on the weekends allowed Bruno to... You know what? I said it yesterday and I was hesitant. Now I'm more comfortable to say it. He did play a very Cantona role in that game. Obviously, they're different players, but he was very much... He played further forward. He was very close to Mason. And at times, Mason drifted wide and Bruno was the focal point. So if he plays in that system, and depending how often United play in that system, then I think there is an opportunity for him to score goals. But I think once Cavani is back in there or Martial is back in there, Bruno will play that touch deeper, and I think he'll still chip in with goals naturally. But I don't think he's going to be topping the charts.
Well, just on the, or George is sort of echoing my thoughts. Fernando surely a shout for PFA Player of the Year, and we're definitely not jumping the gun there. First game of the season. Don't care what anyone says. But on that, and you're saying when other people come back into the squad, and I think that was such a positive for me with the result against Leeds. You look at how good it was. You look at sort of the options we potentially do have, because that's without our best defender or potentially best defender in Varane. It's without our, well, a lot of people would have those as our two weakest midfielders. Now, McTominay starts for me, but our two maybe potentially weakest midfielders. And you look at the front people who are missing. Marcus Rashford was missing. Jadon Sancho was missing. Edison Cavani were missing. So you look how good that performance was and the options that we do have to bring in. It is sort of positive signs there. But a few comments here. Jonathan, United going up, Leeds going down. And Rob saying, with a consistent year, Bruno has to be in the mix for the PFA. But just on Bruno, in regards to, they're talking about Cavani, when those players come back in, you think Bruno's position will change and his role will change. I'm just thinking, is that potentially a mistake then? Obviously, you do need a player like Cavani to come back in, but could we not be stronger with playing Bruno in that more advanced role? Even though on paper, okay, he's not a striker, but if you have someone who can impact games and contribute the way he does, maybe it's more beneficial to the team.
I think we can't get ahead of ourselves. We also have to remember the way Leeds play complemented what Bruno did. And I think more times than not, United will come against low blocks. So if that's the case, let's also remember Bruno's a wonderful distributor of the ball. He's capable of finding a ball from deep and picking out a man. So I do think there is an opportunity where we're playing a counter-attacking system where we get teams to come onto us like Leeds did, where, of course, Bruno can be more of a, maybe not a focal point, but can play further forward. Dare I say 4-4-2. But I think more times than not, it'll be one where he at times comes deep, at times is behind the striker. I think ultimately that will be his position, because if United's got its strongest lineup available, you're going to see Cavani, Martial up front. And I think that's the right decision.
Yeah, well, Rob makes a comment here. United's biggest challenge this year is to beat that low block. And yeah, look, last year showed Leeds at home is the ideal game for Man United. So, and yeah, we're not going to be playing Leeds at home every single game. Only Liverpool get Norwich every second week, which we'll get into later on in the episode. But just on to Chelsea, what do you make of Chelsea? Because they're a team I don't often sort of tune in to watch, mainly because when Liverpool are on the telly, you watch Liverpool, you watch Arsenal, City or rather, no, you watch City. My hatred for Leeds, I watch Leeds. Chelsea are just there, they go and do their thing. I'm never inclined to go out of my way to watch them. But whenever I do turn the TV on, the reason I was watching them because I was buzzing after that Leeds result as a midnight kickoff, the Chelsea one. So then I'll stay up and watch it. Whenever I do watch Chelsea, regardless of the opposition, Marcos Alonso scores. He has to be the most lethal left back. They might as well. They've just brought in Lukaku for £100 million or whatever it is. Surely they should just play Marcos Alonso up front, because every time I see this guy play, and Chelsea fans are mixed on him from what I see, he scores.
Oh gosh! Well, he'd be £100 million cheaper, that's for sure. He is a goal scorer. He gets forward. His strengths are his attack. Undoubtedly, it's his attacking traits. Where his weaknesses are is the other side of the game, which is being defensive and being able to trap back and read and attack. But you know what? They play a good system, Chelsea. That they've got the 3-man at the back, 3-man defense, and it seems to be working for him, which easily transitions to a back five. And what that does is ultimately it allows them to win the midfield battle. They're playing in a way where they get to pack the midfield, much like Manchester City do, albeit they play a different style of football, Chelsea. But you know what? Status quo. I mean, no shocks here. A very dominant victory. They dominated all the stats. Possession at over 60%. They had more shots on target. And you know what? With Lukaku coming in, they'll be a stronger side, and it gives them more options in terms of how they play. So look, credit to them. I think they'll definitely be up there in terms of the Premier League.
Are you staying with your sort of your sort of opinion last week when sort of that Lukaku news broke? You said, well, if they sign Lukaku, in your opinion, that would sort of put Chelsea above United. Obviously, we're not making any sort of grand sort of predictions after the first week. Obviously, Bruno for Golden Boot aside. But are you expecting now, do you stand by Chelsea being the second favourites behind City? And here we are saying that City, they've lost their first game of the season, but are you still saying City, Chelsea, United?
Yeah, I am. And the only reason I think United have a very strong 11, but if I look at Chelsea's depth, like they're strong. Like you look at that midfield, like Kante didn't play.
But
Like
that's what I'm just
Kante's one
saying.
of
That's what I was just saying about United steps. You look, just have a listen to these names who didn't play. Great performance against Leeds. Varane
the.
didn't play. Van der Beek and Matic, a lot of people have them as our best midfielders. They didn't play. Our potential new six didn't play because we obviously haven't signed him. But Jadon Sancho didn't play. Marcus Rashford didn't play. Edison Cavani didn't play. Those are players you think most likely everyone has them in their starting 11. We
Yeah,
weren't fit. Leeds were
absolutely.
fit. Like it's an unbelievable performance and result for me, that United one.
I mean, look, the score line. I think it was a product of Leeds aren't obviously United are a stronger side, but the way Leeds play allows for that. You said it yesterday yourself, and what you said in your assessment was correct. Rightly or wrongly, Bielsa believes in his system and he plays it no matter what. Come hook or come crook, he knows his way and he plays that way. That plays into United's hands. The thing with Chelsea is there is no question they can break a low block. And it just will come down to depth for United. If you put our strongest 11 out there, I think where you can make an argument to say we can challenge City, we can challenge Chelsea. The concern with United that I have is head over heart. If we have any injuries, particularly in the attack, particularly in the midfield, and also up front, any injuries happening in those two areas, we're not looking too good. Just particularly midfield time, I just think outside Bruno and Pogba are clearly our stars, and I think there's a gap below those two. I like Van der Beek, but he's unproven. I like Matic, but he's not going to play every week. And the McFred combo have their limitations. So, and the thing is, it's a wait and see for United. I think with McTominay, we saw really positive signs, but again, that's a game that complements him. How's McTominay going to play when he's coming up against a low block? That's where the question is. Now, if he steps up his game, which I believe he can, and he's got another level to go to, maybe this conversation is different in 6 months. But as it currently stands, I think Chelsea and City, just in pure and just in the depth, they can put out two teams and they're still strong.
Yeah, I think for United to go on and have a successful season, as obviously United have to do well, but maybe just in the situation of how strong other teams are, we do need a City and Chelsea to just have a bad period, to have a bad 2 months, to have a bad Christmas period. Because ultimately teams are going to have bad spells. We need Chelsea's and City's bad spell to be quite a bad one where they look back in May saying that wasn't a good season. Regardless of what we do, I think we will need a little bit of help. Now, just some comments before we move on. George Alonso, the fullback that attacks that can't defend, a left-footed Trent Alexander-Arnold. Rob's gone, Lukaku will suit their system. They haven't had a striker since Costa. And before that, Didier Drogba. Ryan
Yeah.
from the United Supporters Club here. Not enough room for all those forward players at Chelsea now. It will be interesting. I'll just throw a comment here. Where did I see Werner? Just on that comment from Ryan, but Jonathan here. Werner gets better with Lukaku. Martinez' best output over the last 2 seasons with Lukaku at Inter. Just on Werner. He's a player. Look, I join in the banter, and I'll continue to do so because he misses sitter after sitter. But as a footballer, I really like him. I think he's so dangerous and he's so good for Chelsea. But when you do
Absolutely.
see the output, or when you do watch Match of the Day, he is a nightmare. He misses so many chances, so you can see why they bought Lukaku. But if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be saying keep Werner and almost just playing week in, week out because he's a nightmare for oppositions.
He's a wonderful player. Before he signed for Chelsea, I was actually sort of hoping United got him. My initial impression of Werner was he's Marcus Rashford, but two-footed, and he's just more lethal in front of goal. I thought he was a better version of Marcus Rashford, if I'm being entirely honest. And they're similar style players. They're both quick and nippy and can dribble and be very direct. Look, I'm keen to see how Werner goes, and I agree, to be honest. I think with Lukaku there, he doesn't have to be the focal point, so then he can just chip in. Now, and he can play in a wide position, Werner, so that's what I'm saying. I think with Lukaku, it evolves Chelsea. It allows them to play multiple ways, and that's a scary proposition, to be honest.
Yeah, well, before we move on from the Chelsea chat, just James has left a comment here saying, as crazy as it might sound, I think there's something about Lukaku that he isn't suited to be an elite striker in the Premier League. Italy for sure, England not so much. And I'm very much on the same page. I understand he's got goals and goals don't lie, numbers don't lie. But I just think over the course of the season, especially in England, we have the evidence of this at Everton and Man United. Yes, he goes, and I've said this, he goes and bullies teams, he'll score hat-tricks here and there, but he'll go 6 weeks of being the worst striker in the Premier League. And yes, he has goals, but he limits these teams' chances to score goals in the way he breaks down his own team's sort of possession. So the ball will come into him and they'll lose the ball. So sometimes he will pop up with a goal, But if they played better football, they would be in a position where they could score 5 more goals. So I think Lukaku, it will be interesting. Fair play to him. It's a good signing for them. But yeah, I don't have too much time for Lukaku. But we'll move on now to Liverpool and Norwich. And it's a hard one because they're one game into the season, Liverpool, or everyone's one game into the season. It feels like it's their 7th game against Norwich this year already. Every single week you tune in, Liverpool's playing Norwich. Every week.
I'm laughing because I think it was 2 years ago we had this exact joke. I remember we're at the pub and we say, "Oh, who'd Liverpool play today?" "Oh, Norwich." And we're like, they verse Norwich every second week. I get it. It was a couple seasons ago where it felt like we were versing Wolves every 2 weeks. Sometimes it happens like that. But yeah, look, banter aside, Liverpool played well. Van Dijk looked good. Looks strong. Looks like he's rehabbed well. And to be honest, I don't feel. I didn't. You know what? To be fair, I thought Norwich had their chances. I thought they did challenge Liverpool at times. But look, Liverpool's quality came through in the end. High intensity, high press. I'm not sure about Liverpool this season. I think the top 4 is set unless something miraculous happens. I think it will be City, Chelsea, United, Liverpool. In what order? Don't know. I think all 4 are capable of winning. But something about Liverpool for me this season, I'm not feeling like they're as strong. In saying that, Thiago was so disappointing last season, no fault of his own. And I'm just wondering this season, is there an opportunity for a change? He didn't play this game, so that's something. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Liverpool? Did you catch the game? Did you have any opinions of them? And what are your opinions of them going into the season?
No, well, 2:30 on a Sunday morning. I'm not setting the alarm to watch Liverpool for that, but they are a team that, everyone has them in that top 4, but no one has them in a title race in regards to we put United there, we put Chelsea, and put City. But I think it's a little bit, not hard done by. I couldn't care less about Liverpool. However, you do have to look at the goals Salah brings. And in these close games, if you do have someone, and every single season, he pretty much manages, even if poor season, if you go back and look at his numbers, he's always in around 25, 30 goals sort of thing. So as long as they do, if he stays fit, now they will maybe struggle. I'm not sure what their situation is with the African Cup of Nations, but they will have a few players going there in terms of Salah, in terms of Mane. I remember the last African Cup, though, like some of the players only went for like a week, 2 weeks sort of thing. It was sort of minimal disruption sort of thing. But I think if you're a Liverpool fan, you would be saying, why aren't we in the discussion of sort of title races? Because, look, they've won the season. They won the league 2 years ago, so they have the mentality to go and be successful. They've won the Champions League. They've got a manager who has done it. So, but there is that feeling. I'm not sure what that feeling is. I'm not sure if it was just off the back of such a disappointing season for them last year and whether you can put that down to Van Dijk's absence. Who knows? Obviously, he will be an improvement for them. But in my opinion, why I don't have them in that sort of top echelon is the reason, as good as their front 3 is in Firmino, Mane and Salah, I've always had the feeling they were so good and so successful for that period of time. I think it got to that stage where, and Salah and Mane were always linked, Mohamed Salah was linked with a move to Real Madrid, and you always thought, well, okay, they've had their success, now freshen it up. Now they need a new player in there, get a Jadon Sancho in there or something, just something to freshen things up. And I always thought they just never did that. Okay, they brought Shaqiri, they brought Diego Jota, who's been good, but no one to really properly challenge that front 3 like Jadon Sancho would, or a Kylian Mbappe, who they've been linked to sort of with their Nike deal. So I think to make that next step, and they've won the league before us in regards to recent times, but they do need some fresh blood up front, I think. As good as their attack is, they do need something different, I feel, because they have been playing the same football for, 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, they do need to evolve. And to be honest, I thought they would have done well adding another striker. I think that they're obviously, and Liverpool fans will tell you themselves, I don't think Firmino's, I'm going to say he's not a premiership winning striker, but look, they've won the league with him there. But I think they need to evolve. And I think the evolution of Liverpool is probably another central midfielder, to be honest, to complement what Thiago can do. But they need to evolve their system. I don't think the way they play, it almost skips Thiago. They play in a way that skips the midfield. Thiago, who likes to get on the ball. So that needs to be the evolution of Liverpool. But with the current system, you probably need a striker then to allow Thiago to do his thing. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they play this season.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just 2 comments here. Jonathan goes, certainties in life, death, taxes, and Liverpool put in 3 goals against Norwich. Tune in for next week's episode. It'll be Anfield against Norwich. And George has gone, the Norwich yo-yo is bound to continue. And I think, Norwich are just one of those clubs. Just I almost get frustrated with them because I think, what are you doing here? You're just wasting my time. You pop up for 9 months, then you go away, then a year later you come back, sort of thing. So I'm sorry for any Norwich fans have sort of tuned into the chat. I highly doubt they have, but they're a weird club, Norwich, and they're so far out of the way. But we will wrap up on two clubs who are obviously in the news for different reasons or the same reasons, depending how you look at it. If you are in the live chat, get your comments in regards to what you think of the Spurs and City game, because there's so many aspects to discuss. The Grealish, the Pep Guardiola, Harry Kane, obviously. Where do you want to start on it, Larry? Because there was the game which Tottenham won, which was a surprise. I saw Tottenham put out a tweet about an hour before kickoff, just before the team news came out. They're saying they just put a tweet out of Tottenham players walking out of the tunnel saying, "Whatever happens, happens. We'll just try our best." It was almost like they conceded defeat, and obviously 2 hours later they walk away with the 3 points. So fair play to them. But where do you want to start on this game, just before we wrap up, at the actual football, or Jack Grealish, 100 million, and he didn't get 4 assists, which is suddenly the expectation from Graham Souness, or the Harry Kane stuff? I think there's 3 things we can discuss here.
Yeah, I think let's talk about the game first and foremost. Manchester City played, they were phenomenal in the opening, I want to say 20 minutes. And then after that, just fell apart. There was one counter-attack that Tottenham had not long after that period, and they sort of looked like they shocked City. And I felt like City just never recovered after that. Obviously scored, and I don't know what it was with City. I know Kyle Walker didn't play, and that he is crucial to particularly counter-attack. That's their vulnerability. And we spoke about it when we did our preview of Manchester City coming into the season. Counter-attack's their absolute weakness, so it's something they do need to address, but Kyle Walker does address a lot of that. And when he plays, then you can put Cancelo on the left, which is where he played a lot of football last season. Benjamin Mendy's a weak link, and I think that's where they got exposed. And Tottenham did well to exploit that. Harry Kane not playing, look, they'll say what they want to say, Tottenham. I think they're just trying to keep face. I think he'll end up against Manchester City. Well, he'll be at Manchester City, I should say. I think it's just a matter of when.
Well, on Harry Kane, can we draw Paul Pogba into this discussion? Because they obviously had an interview on Sky Sports with Mika Richards, Graham Souness inevitably was there, and Gary Neville, etc. And there is different narratives with Pogba and Harry Kane. And one of the ones Mika Richards came out and saying, well, Paul Pogba has never asked to leave Man United. Well, Pogba has asked to leave pretty much. He has made his feelings clear that he did want out. So that he maybe not in the same way as Harry Kane in terms of that interview he did with Gary Neville on the golf course, but both players have wanted out. Harry Kane currently wants out. Paul Pogba's obviously having maybe a little change of heart in the short term. But there is definitely a different narrative in regards to the way, even with Gary Neville. And Gary Neville's a Man United fan, even the way he treated. Obviously, he's got a connection with Harry Kane. He's obviously worked with him. But I just look at that, and you can even compare it to the English players. You look at Harry Kane's situation, and everyone's saying, well, he's only just got back, so you can understand he was never going to play this because he wasn't fit. Well, he didn't go further in the tournament than Luke Shaw. He didn't go further than Jadon Sancho and Harry Maguire, who were back playing for Man United, who were back playing last week for Man United, Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw were. And I'm just thinking something is going on. Harry Kane obviously has thrown his toys out of the pram and not returned to training on time, no matter what spin they put on it. Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw have been back for well over a week now and performing for Man United, performing in pre-season training, and obviously performing in the first day of the season. So, and we sort of questioned Paul Pogba during pre-season. We say, what's he doing in Miami? Why isn't he back with the rest of the Euro players who sort of returned a couple of days earlier? Now, Paul Pogba put that argument to bed by returning, playing, training, now performing with 4 assists. But we question Paul Pogba. Harry Kane is just, he's just doing his thing. There's no real criticism of him where, in my opinion, there should be.
Call a spade a spade. There's definitely something going on there. I don't understand this narrative of, trying to sweep the dirt under the carpet. We know he wants to leave. And I think, like I said, I think it's just purely a case of Tottenham are trying to put on a face. Manchester City want it to happen, and they'll get their man. Around why he's not playing, he's obviously not playing because he's causing issues. He's causing issues in the background, and he'll leave for sure. But you know what? Credit to Tottenham, like they did it without him, and that might actually be good for that playing group to get a big result like that against a top club like Manchester City without their main man. Maybe there's a little bit of hope. But the problem with Tottenham is, and looking at their prospects for the season, even if they get 150 million, there is no Harry Kane out there who's going to come to Tottenham. In fact, there's not many elite strikers. Sorry?
Yeah, no, I think that is their problem. I forget who made it. I think it might have been Duncan Castles or something. Not that we're a big fan of him, but I do listen to his podcast. or it might have been Gary Neville made the point saying, okay, get the 150 million for Harry Kane. Okay, great business. You go and buy a 150 million pound striker. Okay, that sort of makes sense. However, no 150 million pound striker is coming to Tottenham to play in the Conference League. So
Yeah.
it's just, okay, no matter what money they get, however they try to reinvest it, they can't get that money, sort of thing. So, but well, speaking of money, and okay, we'll obviously be discussing Harry Kane in future sort of episodes, whether even the United sort of chats, but especially these Premier League chats we'll do sort of weekly. But Jack Grealish, £100 million. Graham Souness before the game was quite critical of Paul Pogba's 4 assists, saying, "Oh, that's what you expect of a £100 million player." Of course, Paul Pogba was an £89 million player years ago. So Jack Grealish is actually a £100 million player. And from my stats, I don't have them in front of me, but I saw City didn't score, so I assume Jack Grealish didn't get those 4 assists. And no one's throwing him under the bus for a subpar performance.
Yeah, well, Graham Souness is Graham Souness, isn't he? Look, I'm not going to put pressure on Grealish. I think players can't control what they come for. He'll have a good season. I'm sure he'll settle in. And this is what I said to you, though. Like I said, I just feel the way he plays, I actually don't feel like it complements Manchester City. I'm sure there'll come a point in the season where they'll accommodate it or they'll find a way where it works. But he's a player who runs with the ball. Every other player in that team, but with the exception of Mahrez, they all like to get on the ball and pass the ball. They're all passers. They pass and move and intelligent movement. Even Foden. He's not renowned for fantastic dribbling. He's good movement in tight spots. He can get the ball away and evade a defender. But he's a player who looks at what he actually does with the ball. Grealish is a dribbler. So keen to see how they actually look to utilize him. And like you said, £100 million. Forget this game. We'll look at him at the terms of the season and the career he goes on to have at City. But they got a lot of work to do to fit him in, I think.
Well, the Grealish, I'll stay on just before we wrap up the Grealish and Pogba sort of comparison in terms of Pogba always makes headlines for his haircut, and he obviously had a sort of a tinge of blue in his hair. There's a good meme of Jack Grealish looking like the girl out of Bend It Like Beckham.
Oh, yeah.
They had Jack Grealish for Aston Villa, which was a picture of Grealish. Then they had Grealish for City, and it's the one from Bend It Like Beckham.
Oh, that's good.
I thought that was good. If someone would throw that up in the comments, that would be good. We'll just throw some comments up here before we wrap up. If you are watching the video, please do leave a like on the video. This is a type of episode we'll do probably every Monday, sort of when the Premier League fixtures wrap up. We'll sort of go through them all, except obviously fixtures like Brighton versus Burnley. We won't do those type of fixtures unless obviously the weekly when Burnley beat Arsenal. We'll definitely touch on Burnley there. But Ryan says Spurs have to sell Kane before his value decreases with age. Spurs need to get 130 million now and spend it well whilst they have the time to recruit. City in the driving seat with the negotiation. I think I can see Pep Guardiola now losing that game, running straight to the phone to get Sheikh Mansour on the phone and say, "Come on, mate, I didn't score a goal in a game. Can I have 200 million for a striker?" And sadly, I think Sheikh Mansour will give him the money. That maybe could be the catalyst. Okay, City are disappointed with losing the game, but it could the long term, as say in terms of it could improve the negotiation on their half. James saying, I thought it was strange that Pep took so long to react with his substitutions. City looks so out of the game and actually lethargic with 20 minutes to go, and they still waited to make the changes. I think it's hard we criticise Solskjaer for sort of the lack of substitutions at times, but this time of the season with fitness, it is quite hard in regards to, the players you want to bring on, they might not even be fit as well. So it is a tricky spot for some managers. But while Pep Guardiola is bottom of the table, we might as well sort of poke a little bit of fun at him. Prem media coverage of Pogba. Yeah, look, I think that does come down to some of the discussion with Harry Kane and the way Pogba is treated. Rob, I can still see Levy not letting it happen. 3 years on his contract and he doesn't want to sell. And it's so hard. Like, what do you do now in terms of Tottenham? Just please. So you said, okay, you think he'll go to Manchester City, and I think that will happen as well. But you do look at Daniel Levy now. It's 150 million now. Or if you have an unhappy player who doesn't hit, look, usually Harry Kane will get 20, 30 goals. You assume that happens. But say Harry Kane doesn't get those 30 goals, he throws his toys out of the pram and has a poor season for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Suddenly he's on closer to 30. I don't know his age now. I assume he's 28 or so. 26, 27, 28, is he?
Yeah.
Suddenly they've missed out on 150 million this year. He'd go for 60, 70 the next season sort of thing. So while Tottenham don't have to sell, could you see a situation where Daniel Levy just says, God, it's too big a risk. I'm just going to sell him now.
He'll have to. If Harry Kane's not happy, Harry Kane's not going to perform at to his potential. So if he then puts in a 15 goal season as opposed to the 30 goal season we've become accustomed to, is Harry Kane as valuable? Now, with 2 years left on his deal, of course he's still going to attract value. He's English. He's still a good player. But I don't see it. I don't see Levy digging his heels in. Like, particularly if he gets the money, Levy's a good businessman. If he gets the money, he'll sell. And look, at the end of the day, we have to remember, like, they're in a heap of debt because of the stadium. They haven't been able to have fans back in there. So Tottenham have really been hurting financially. So if they get an opportunity to get that money in, I think Levy, he'll take the money and run.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just some comments before we wrap up. Sully Souness has lost the plot. Look,
Just
I
now?
love going on YouTube and watching the Souness clips because you could see him physically getting frustrated when Mika Richards was defending Paul Pogba. Like, Graham Souness was actually turning away in disgust. They were doing like a socially distanced sort of interview sort of thing, all standing on the pitch. And Graham Souness, not just sort of mentally, but you could see him physically getting frustrated, which does sort of brighten up my day. Vin has gone. Souness is in limbo. He thinks about Pogba 24/7. I'm loving this Souness hate. If everyone could keep it up, it's very enjoyable. Souness needs to give his hard on for Pogba a rest. Southgate is the coach from Bend It Like Beckham as well. It's not a bad shout. But and last comment from Vin saying Spurs must be lucky they considered a big club. Look, they've just beat Manchester City. But I was having a debate with a mate the other day. It's amazing that this Super League news, which we'll probably talk about, it's starting to creep back in a bit. Real Madrid is sort of suggesting everyone's still connected to the Super League. But how on earth were Tottenham? You do look at the mess they are in. How on earth did Tottenham sort of weasel their way into that Super League discussion those couple of months ago?
Yeah, I don't know. To some people, they're considered a big club. They're not for me. That's not even a disrespect thing. I just don't see. I don't see the stardust around Tottenham. I really don't. They're just there. It's probably with the rivalry with Arsenal has rubbed off on them, and they have this banter. They're the biggest club in England, in London now, or North London. But look, Arsenal can finish 18th every season. I'll still consider them a bigger club than Tottenham. They just don't have that appeal for me.
Yeah, no, it's hard to disagree with that, but we will wrap it up then, and we'll obviously be back tomorrow with some more United news. Something should break. You'd think with United has been quite sort of quiet, and obviously we'll have the Rafael Varane training photos, but we will look to do an episode like this probably every Monday, or especially after the sort of match day, and sort of go through those sort of big Premier League stories, big Premier League results, and especially while United are top of the table, so we can look down on everyone else. So if you have enjoyed the video, please do leave a like, and if you're not subscribed, please click subscribe, because I think we're almost at 100 subscribers, so that would be good if we could hit that before the next video. But until then, Larry, enjoy your Monday. Good chat in Premier League while we are top of the league, and Bruno Fernandes is leading the Golden Boot race, Ballon d'Or winner, and PFA Riders Player of the Season. He's going to win at everything this season, I'm sure of it.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly. He might even win the Golden Glove. Who knows? I wouldn't put it past Bruno.
No doubt. Most penalties. Well, so at the moment, Solskjaer and Bruno, they've got to win Player of the Month, Player and Manager of the Month so far. Like, Klopp will win it. Klopp could lose the next 3 games and he'll still win Manager of the Month. But Bruno and Solskjaer at the moment, top of the tree. Yeah, it does make Mondays a spring in your step on a Monday.
No disagreements there, hopefully. Look, at the end of the day, though, I think the award we all won is the Premier League trophy. So, yeah, exciting season, mate. Let's see how we go.
Thanks everyone for tuning in again, and we'll chat to you tomorrow. Have a good one.